So what's this new game you wanted to talk about?
So this is a game called In Sound Mind.
Yeah, I've watched a bit of gameplay of it, like 5 to 10 minutes, and I don't know what the hell the game is about. Is it just like you just wake up and like you have to, you wake
So
up in a spooky place and you have to figure out what the hell's going on? Is that essentially is
not
that
not
how it starts?
not not really. So the way
Okay.
so you play as this guy called Desmond Wales, and you are a psychologist or psychiatrist, and you kind of just wake up in the basement of your apartment, and you look outside. The world is all flooded and destroyed, and you have no idea what's going on. Yeah, so you explore your apartment, and you eventually get called by this kind of guy who's the main antagonist, and he explains to you that no, you're kind of fucked. You're gonna get killed because you're such a bad psychiatrist, and you've led to so many deaths.
Oh, that's interesting actually. Yeah,
So
that's
so the point of the game is you go through all of the patients that have died because you treated them badly. You have to go through the different patients and try to fix their problems for them in the afterlife, sort of, in a way. I mean, this is like one of the only negative reviews I've found, which I think is, I mean, obviously there are going to be negative reviews of any game, but I
Yeah.
decided, let's look at it. This is a game that
it's by
has,
PC Gamers, so that's a
yeah,
reputable like industry
yeah,
on
yeah.
top of that, reputable company.
So I mean, like,
Um,
this game has like 95% positive reviews on Steam,
mhm,
and like 4 or 5-star reviews on other places as well. So it's a very popular game. So let's see why they don't like it.
throughout this article, he points out that he wasn't afraid when he played this game, and I need to ask you. I need to ask you this, and I need you to be honest.
Mhm.
Were you afraid when you played this game? Two questions. First off, were you afraid? And then the second one is, how does this stack up with other horror games? Like, were you more afraid than like other horror games?
There
Like
were
some of the ones they mentioned, like Amnesia and stuff.
Okay, there were definitely some tense parts in it, but I think overall it wasn't that scary.
Okay, but was it more scary than like the average horror game that you played? Like, especially the older ones, like the classics, like Amnesia and stuff.
The lack of fear, I think, comes from the exposure you have to the monsters, because you're exposed to them quite a lot.
Okay.
But in the lead up to them, before you actually meet them, then I would say there's a lot of fear there. Maybe
Okay.
not as comparable to like the Amnesia or Layers of Fear, and then it kind of fades away as you're exposed to the monster. I think, there is some kind of disturbing element to it.
Yeah.
Because the people you're dealing with are people who have like very severe mental issues, and they've all
Yeah.
died because of it. So, and as you like go through their levels and stuff like that, you get to know them better, like on a personal level. It kind of disturbs you on a level like that. So I wouldn't say scary, but maybe disturbing is a good word for it.
So, did this game elicit any curiosity?
Yeah, like for the very,
Yeah, I mean that's the one that was most obvious.
yeah. So,
But like this person who wrote this article was like, nah, I wasn't. I guess.
so the very first thing you see is this kind of city that's being covered in like ink, and immediately you see that, I think, okay, what's happening? And then you have the voice of the antagonist. That's the first voice you hear, his voice. And from the get-go, he's like very threatening. He's very imposing. And he only has one line in the intro, but it's very clear that he's, the bad guy. It's very clear that he's going to be
Okay.
the issue. So there's curiosity that we get like from the very start of the game.
They were making love. The person who wrote this article was making a lot of comparisons to older games, and one of the things he mentioned was like, did some of the mechanics seem like outdated and overdone? Like, for example, it was like a battery mechanic or something.
Yeah, I didn't find any of those mechanics annoying.
Okay.
I mean, there is a battery mechanic, but it's like I've never dropped below 70%. I'll be honest with you.
So it's there.
It's
but
fair, but
not,
it's fair, but it's not annoying.
not something you worry about too much. Would you say the game was corny? This whole time he was saying that like the game is corny, very corny, and melodramatic. In terms of writing, in terms of some of the mechanics and stuff. How do you feel about
For
that?
the writing, I would say sometimes the main character and like the cat are kind of corny. The cat.
Yeah, I saw the cat. You can
Yeah,
pet.
the cat
right?
speaks as well. They're
That's important.
the only kind of two characters that are kind of, I would say, corny. Everybody else, though, all of their voices, I think, are actually really well done. Especially the antagonist, who sounds, I don't know.
And the writing too.
Yeah.
Like, not just like the voice and stuff.
Yeah, you kind of get this like sense of dread when you listen to the tapes of the patients. You can like
Oh, that's
very
great.
clearly tell that they're suffering from something, and it's very well done, I think. Right, so we're gonna go through this review, obviously, like we do on this channel. We're gonna start here. Aren't you curious about how you've woken up without memories in the nightmarish apartment building? Don't you want to find out what's up with the talking cat, or the hostile entity refuses to stop bullying you over the phone? Sadly, my answer was never more than an empathetic than, I guess. I mean, I've already spoken of this. That's not true.
In my eyes, if she's not curious about all those things,
Yeah.
that's just maybe she's not into these type of games or something. I
Yeah.
don't know, because
I mean, this is a game that you need to kind of like immerse yourself into to enjoy. Like a lot of horror
yeah,
games.
because clearly there's a lot of mystery, so you can't say the game doesn't elicit curiosity in some ways.
You know, it seems like it's very much their fault that they can't manage it. As I muddled along as amnesiac psychiatrist Desmond Wales to piece together a series of psychological terrors and tragedies, I couldn't shake the feeling I was playing the same kind of horror game I've been playing for a decade or more. This part is true for about the first 5 to 10 minutes. You know, you appear in a basement, and you just got this kind of like that dreadly looking place. And you just walk around it for about 5 to 10 minutes. But once you get up the elevator and you get into like the actual,
everything changes.
Yeah, once you actually get into like the main part of the game and the mechanics start to show themselves a bit more, then you realise, you know, this is a different game. This is very unique.
Okay.
Yeah, so how the game works is obviously you need to find tapes for the different patients, right? And they're in the main apartment building. They appear in. That's like the hub world, I suppose. You need to go through and find these different tapes, and once you go through and you find these different tapes, you need to listen to them, listen to what the patients are saying. They'll give you like hints on what kind of ghosts they're going to be and how you can beat them. That's and cool. Once you finish the tapes, you go through and you're in a different world, pretty much, kind of like a psychodynamic plane, I suppose. And each of them are very unique as well. It's like a different game for each patient. It's not the same thing all the way through, which I think is, you know, very unique compared to other horror games, which are pretty much the same thing the whole way through.
True. Okay, that's fair. That's a good point.
And then there are things to like though, medieval and visual. This is a positive part of the review, which I just want to bring up. Because, you know,
yeah, that's true.
I agree with this, but, you know, I think the visuals are quite nice. Nothing wrong with this, but its writing and vocal performances land somewhere between corny and melodramatic. I mean, you brought this up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's where I got the corny melodramatic part.
Now, I think the performances are mostly fine. You know, you obviously the cat and the main character are a bit okay, meh. But, you know, the patients and the main antagonist, they have really good voices, I think. And, you know, I really like the kind of, I mean, I keep on saying this, but I particularly like the antagonist's voice because it kind of has this kind of hatred to it. You know, this character hates you, and you can tell that he hates you.
The antagonist?
Yeah.
Is it my voice?
I mean, it's quite deep, so. You know, the
voice.
So
yes, there you go.
The voice, if you can imagine, like an old 80s.
I can imagine.
Like, imagine like an old 80s mob boss, in a way, from like Brooklyn or something.
Huh? What you gonna do? Huh?
Kind of.
I'm gonna bury you. Like that?
Honestly, kind of. Go to this video more.
Oh man, it sounds identical.
Yeah, I know.
They say the curiosity killed the cat.
I like his voice. I think it's very dramatic.
It's a good voice actor.
The puzzle designs are enjoyable enough, but it can be tedious having to fumble with an inventory you can only navigate with the directional keys. Especially when I had to reenact a nonsense sales promotion scanning items on a sequence of abandoned cash registers to match specific prices.
So this is a PC game, right?
I don't know if it's on console, but yeah, I got it on Steam.
Okay, but do you have to use the directional thing that we're referring to? Click? You can't just directly click to the...
I don't think you can do it. Like, I think you need to use either directional keys or your WASD to move around the inventory.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's dumb.
Yeah, I mean, it's never been like an issue for me because like, the inventory, I'll be honest, isn't a massive thing in the game.
Okay.
It's like, I mean, it's annoying if you need to use it, but it's like, it's never really made me go, oh, I hate this. In any one time, you never have any more than like 5 or 6 items in your inventory at once. So, you know, navigating through it isn't a massive issue, I don't think. I mean, obviously they could refine it, but it's not a big of a deal as they're making out to be. And there's a good amount of mandatory backtracking, often with the kinds of discoveries or revelations that make retreading the same area feel justified. I wouldn't say the backtracking is mandatory. The hub of the game, like the apartment building you're in, if you want to call it the hub, you need to walk through this place multiple times, obviously, to find the different tapes.
I love that.
And every time you find, you know, a new item in one of the levels, you come back and you can unlock a new part of it. It's not really backtracking, it's like just unlocking new areas. Maybe most damning is that its enemies, including each area's boss, felt more inconvenient than scary. Now, I mean, I brought this up before, but I don't think it's super scary, the game.
Yeah.
I think, you know, it's disturbing in a way, and there's some tense moments. Like for the second boss, the fire guy, once you get onto his level, you can like see trees fall in the background with like kind of roaring sounds, and it kind of makes you think, oh my god, am I going to go up against this? Because you don't actually see him until way further into the level, but you know it's kind of there. He has a strong presence on the map before you actually get to him. it adds some tension to the game. You know, for the bosses, they're all fun to go up against. I mean, it may not be super scary, it may not be like heart-wrenching, but like they're fun to fight against, which is really what matters, I suppose. I don't know why they're considered inconvenient either, so I didn't find them inconvenient. You know, they are the obstacle we need to go up against.
Yeah, the obstacle isn't. Yeah, that's not
the obstacle we can't.
I'm not saying that the final boss is inconvenient. Like,
yeah, you know, they're supposed to be inconvenient,
aren't they? They're supposed to make things harder.
It doesn't help that when Ensign Mind tries to paint with psychology as part of his horror palette, some of his attempts dip from clumsy to tasteless. During a sequence in the nightmarish reflection of a shopping centre, it was hard to ignore that the game was asking me to defeat a ghost by repeatedly exposing her to the trigger for her psychosis. Essentially asking me to weaponize a woman's own fatal psychological trauma against her to progress. It felt gross.
Triggered? Maybe this situation, like this concept where you have to like use a person's weakness that by the way you didn't help them with, like you maybe even aggravated, right, as a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Right? Using it against them to defeat them, using it against them to defeat them, right?
Yeah.
I think that might have left a bad taste in this person's mouth. Maybe that's why the review's negative.
It might be.
What do you think about that?
I might agree with that actually. But I think
really it's like,
I think they're ignoring a lot of the point of the game if that is the case, because not only are
isn't the game supposed to be about like guilt, feeling guilt?
Yeah, and not only are you obviously using these things against them, but you're helping them overcome the issues. Like for example, the ghost she's talking about here, Virginia, she doesn't like being looked at, but once you actually finally defeat her, she lets you look at her face, and it's like signifying that you've helped her overcome her issue. None of the enemies you leave in a bad state. You know, you've helped them pretty much.
Well, essentially you messed up, and then like because of like trauma they have, they're like lingering souls. Kind of like a Bleach. Yeah. Like lingering souls, and you have to help them cross over by, you know, dealing with their trauma.
Yeah, that's a lot of what it is.
So this question ties into horror. Does a horror game need to be actually scary to be good?
Honestly, no. I think if a horror game relies too much on scares, it'll eventually, you know, not really be taken seriously.
Oh, interesting.
Because the nature of horror is that the more you're exposed to it, the less scary things are.
I kind of agree with that. I'm not sure. Maybe my perspective is a little different. Because I feel like as a game itself, like, and generally as a game, it doesn't need to be scary. But if it's like if it has a horror label to it, then like you can look at this game and say, yeah, this is a fun game. But as a horror game, it's not that, you know, it doesn't. You know what I'm saying? You can like separate the two.
I think, you know, you can maybe like have different types of horror. Like you have like a scary horror, but then you have like more disturbing horror. The
psychological doesn't necessarily have to be scary. It has to be unsettling.
Yeah, I think this
which apparently it has for this person, since there were grossed out parts here. Yeah.
No, there's definitely a psychological horror here. Even the review title is about this.
Regardless, even if the game is scary or not, it's still a good game. I think you can agree to that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of care that went into this.
So that's all I've got for this review. Anything you want to add?
I just want to add that we don't know how to end this yet.